they connect and bloom. A bloom, showing if they connect and bloom.
Welcome to the Bloom Show, everybody. This is Sahid, your host. The Bloom Show is brought to you by New Bloom Solutions and New Bloom Media. The purpose of this show is to help the floral industry connect to floral experts, opportunities to network, and much, much more. This show is for the floral community, by the floral community. Pardon the voice, as I'm going through a little vocal cord injury, you could say. And the ENT today said that I'm good to go and it's getting better. So pardon the voice, I'm doing my radio show host voice today. I do have to mention that we were excited about doing a takeover with Tim Huckabee of the Profitable Florist today, but we kind of changed the plans. It was kind of a last minute change and we changed the plans, but we will be doing the takeover with him in a couple weeks or a couple months, and we'll be promoting that. But today, since the tariffs is a topic that is really, really hot right now, we wanted to make sure to cover that. So Tim Huckabee has been a gentleman in helping support that. I also do want to mention that we're excited as Tim Huckabee will become one of the New Bloom Media floral expert voices and floral professional voices for our New Bloom Media, our newsletter, our show, and much, much more. So do tune in to see how we are going to collaborate with Tim Huckabee to bring his value, his workshops to you and to allow you to connect in a personal way with Tim Huckabee. So again, if you are a florist and you want to learn more how to increase your profits and figure out what to do with tariffs and how to manage that, I can't say there's good things about it, but I think we've seen good things in the sense that it's not as bad as some of us would think. But let's talk to Tim and see how florists are responding. But this is a great opportunity to tune in and learn more from a floral industry expert. So without further ado, allow me to invite Mr. Tim Huckabee onto the show. Thank you.
The bloom, showing if they connect and bloom. The bloom, showing if they connect and bloom.
The Bloom Show, Innovate, Connect. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well. Welcome and thank you for your time. I know we have a little bit of a hard cutoff at 1:40, but I'm pretty sure that we can ask some great questions, and as well to the audience. Tune in. Tim Huckabee's worth a lot of money per hour, so please ask questions. If there's anything you have a question, chime in, ask a question, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and even if you want to say hi to Tim, it's always fun to get a shout out from everybody that's watching. So love to have you guys tune in. So Tim, please, for our audience that's just getting to know you and our collaboration, please share a little bit about yourself, Mr. Tim.
Okay, great. Yes. Well, again, thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to maybe some people who don't know me, even though I've been doing this since about 1867. But let me give you my nickel.
I gotta ask a question. Are you serious? 1867.
A fat face keeps you young. So here is my story. I've been in the flower business since 1993. I quite literally stumbled into it. What happened was I moved to New York, spring of '93, and if anybody remembers, we were in a recession at that point. And when I moved into New York from Connecticut, I had every intention of getting a job in marketing in my field. And a month went by and still nothing. So I thought, okay, I got to get something to bring the money in. So I was looking in the newspaper. It was that long ago. We actually still look for jobs in the newspaper. And I saw an ad for a flower shop and it said customer service. And I thought, like a trained monkey can do that. How flippin' easy could that be? And I went, interviewed, got hired. Cut to 33 years later. It's an addictive industry. I was hired to do customer service and sales. Thankfully, I didn't realize this at the moment, but I did pretty quickly. The shop where I was working was called Surroundings on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And those of you who know New York City, that's a very affluent residential neighborhood. And the store was very well run. We were super efficient, very prosperous. We had all of the media titans. I tell people that if I were working there now, that Taylor Swift and Beyonce would be customers, to kind of put it in perspective. And I worked there for 4 years and did everything. I did everything in the sense of, because this is pre-internet and the phones were raging, my full-time job was answering the phones. And there were times when I would be walking home and the muscle memory was still going like this and picking up the phone. However, they were smart and they cross-trained us. So I could help a walking customer with a basic bouquet. I would make deliveries, sweep the floor. None of us had egos. We all wanted to get the job done. So there was a really good esprit de corps, really good morale. I deeply admired the gentleman who owned the store. So when it came time for me to make a move, various reasons, partly money. I mean, that's I think the eternal issue in this industry. We work awfully hard for not a lot of money. But I had a chat with him and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to kind of take these best practices, package it, and then take it on the road and draw like a 30-mile circle around the store, because obviously I'm not going to aid and abet his competition. So I did that. And from the summer of 97 till about the summer of 2017, that's what I did. I would go and visit a store and spend the day or 2 days, depending on how big they are. And I'm proud to say I'm one of the few lucky Americans who's been to all 50 states. I've been to almost all of Canada. I've been all over England, Ireland, Australia, basically the English-speaking world. So I've been in about 7,000 retail flower shops. So without sounding too big for my britches, I think I know about your shop. I think I know about the dynamics. I just don't know what your staff is called. In other words, there are personality types that often pop up in flower shops, and I've been fortunate to learn quite a bit. About 2017, I felt like the perpetual travel was starting to become a grind. It's tough, and I knew at that point that technology had evolved where we could flip it and we could do what we're doing now: meet remotely, use the internet. So we moved the majority of the work to online. So we do live webinars, we have pre-recorded webinars. We have a hybrid of the two, but I still go on site. Last week, or earlier this month rather, I spoke at an SAF convention in Rhode Island. It's called their Profit Blast, a one-day event. And after that, I spent 2 weeks on the road. So in 2 weeks, I visited 10 flower shops, kind of bouncing all around New England. So that's good for me, because when I'm training at a store, I'm also answering the phones, I'm waiting on customers, so I'm teaching and leading by example. So it kind of keeps me grounded into how consumer habits are changing, because my gosh, in the past 5 years, that pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, it's been such a roller coaster. So it's been helpful for me to be out there, because then it enables me to fine tune my training. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing. I will add to that, kind of looking at the next chapter, is we are launching an app this summer specifically for the floral industry, but it's based on my observations in all those stores, and the app is geared toward the design team to tackle some of the recurring issues that impact the design part of the business. So I'll kind of leave it at that. It's called My Design Buddy, and hopefully it's going to make me a gazillionaire. So stay tuned.
So first, I would love to learn more about My Design Buddy and maybe bring it on the show when you're ready to rock it.
Sure.
I think it'll be a great way to get it out to our audience, maybe even test trials or something like that. So we'll discuss that behind the scenes. But secondly, a mutual friend of ours is tuning in, and that is Mr. Daniel Sanchez of South Florals, owns about 10 locations. I'm pretty sure you've worked with him. He says, happy to be watching the show. 2 industry experts, ! So thanks, Danny, for watching. Appreciate you.
Indeed.
So say again?
I said indeed.
Perfect. So let's dive in real quick to a couple questions here. what are the current challenges that retail florists face today in maintaining profitability? And we could throw in a little sprinkle of taxes and tariffs.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of jump in with tariffs because
Okay.
it's top of mind for everybody, and we kind of have this we have a unique situation because we have the tariffs. We're also being spoon fed in the media that the economy is sinking, and sometimes we manifest
Exactly.
that and make it come true. It's interesting with the tariffs. I've been talking to quite a few people in the industry, and for certain aspects of the industry on the hard good side, there is some stock here. So in other words, not even pre-planning, just by nature of doing business, they're not doing just-in-time inventory. They had heavy stock, so they're not seeing the increases yet. Thankfully, these businesses are acting ethically, and they're not reverse engineering the tariff and slapping it on what they've got in inventory. But the prices are changing, and people are seeing that impact immediately the price of some of their fresh product. It all remains to be seen because also, we don't know from the White House if this is going to be permanent, if this is going to be temporary. They seem to be in a state of flux, so it's almost like you've got to write new rules every day. But I do want to share one thing without divulging names or specifics. I had heard about a flower shop who decided, the owner decided that I'm not going to even identify the gender, they are going to add a tariff surcharge to their website of 6%. And I just about lost my mind. I thought that is the most insane idea possible. Now, granted, I did not hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear their argument, and there may be one,
Okay,
but kind of
that's what I was wondering.
yeah, kind of forward facing. I always try to put myself in the seat of the consumer, and I think if I were to go onto that website, no matter how much or how little I'm spending, and I see, oh, there's going to be a tariff surcharge, that would piss me off because I would think, first of all, how did you come up with that? Because like we just said, tariffs are involving. It's going to be some crazy math. You're going to have to take the prices, multiply it by your birth weight, divided by your license plate, and it's going to be some wacky math. So first of all, the fact that this shop is doing that is egregious. And
yeah, weird.
What came to mind for me, and I'm sure that you've seen this in your travel, sometimes, and especially in your home state of Florida, when I've been there for conventions, when I stay at a resort hotel, there's the resort fee. Like, really? Like, you're going to charge, just charge me more. Don't rub my nose in it. I don't want to see that, this far into the 21st century, you're charging me for an internet. You're charging me for a 600 count sheets and all this other crap. Just factor it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So likewise, florists are going to have to increase prices. That's just the simple math. And if they don't, and honestly, Sahid, this scares me. If they don't, they're not going to be in business by the end of the year. I know this past Valentine's Day in particular, and I've heard it before, when florists do the math and they see, okay, if I follow my normal path, whatever my markup is, let's say 3.5 or 4, they get sticker shock and they think, oh my gosh, I can't charge that. My customers aren't going to pay it. So they don't do the normal markup.
Yep.
So now they're taking a hit. They're not earning their angel wings. They're digging their shop's grave. And I think what we do know is that these tariffs are going to impact just about every aspect of the flower business, not just the fresh product. It's going to be the wire, the ribbon, the chemicals, the fluorescent lights in your shop. Everything is going to be impacted. So I see all this chatter in some of the Facebook groups, and it really worries me. People saying, well, I'm going to go to try and pick flowers in the backyard and do all this wacky stuff and that's good actually, but the reality is you're going to have to increase prices, and this is, I feel, where we become even more of a value to the retail florist right now, because their worry is, how do we address this to our customers? What do we do when somebody who spent $75 3 weeks ago now has to spend $85 for the same thing, and he kind of loses his mind? how do we talk to him or her in a professional manner so they understand that we don't lose their business. So it's going to be a question of education and training. I think the one saving grace is that it's going to be impacting all of our lives in every aspect, that, you know, everything we touch is going to inevitably rise in price over the coming months.
Tim, so what's one tip to maintaining profitability that you would say focus on this right now? Not the whole gamut, but what's one thing that they could do to at least have a security blanket of sorts?
Sure. What I would say is stick to your margins. Don't be afraid to offer those higher prices.
Okay.
And for
Makes sense.
anybody listening, you know, with us live today or listening, there is inevitably this kind of fear. You know, we're notorious and famous for creating this like dark cloud hanging over the flower shop that, oh my gosh, if I raise prices, you know, customers are going to burn me in effigy in the town square. But this is a little bit of comfort I can give to everybody. Regardless of your technology, as long as you have a website, run a report. Take a look through your website or your POS, or however you gather the data. Look at the average amount that the customer has spent for a delivery order over the past 6 months. And then run a report out of your POS system and look at the average amount that the customer spent over the past 6 months when they call the store or they visit the store. There's a huge difference. There's typically about a 25% gap. Why do you think that happens, Sahid?
I don't know in the flower shop. Danny, do you know?
Danny knows.
Danny
knows.
Throw in the answer, Danny. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No answer. No answer.
The answer is because the website doesn't watch the news. The website isn't afraid of offering higher prices. The website is going to remember to offer you a box of chocolates when you're ordering birthday flowers for your wife. So adding further credibility to that, when you look at those people who are ordering from your website, typically they're within 25, 35 miles of your store. So they are your customers. The way that I play it out is customer finds out late in the day that there's going to be a funeral. He realizes, oh, the flower shop is closed. I can't call them. I've got an early date tomorrow. So I'm going to go on the website. And on the website, when he's ordering an easel spray, he's given options 300, 400, 500, and he buys it. But had he called the store and he even said, my first cousin died terribly in a blimp accident and I need to order flowers, what they're going to be told is our easel spray start at 125. So we are artificially and inadvertently crippling our own sales. So I don't think that prices are going to skyrocket for florists. We're not talking monumental increases. If it is 5 or 6%, the typical customer doesn't mind that. And what I would also say to florists is kind of a way of just getting you into the right headspace. What I see a lot of florists do at Valentine's Day and sometimes at Mother's Day, but at Valentine's Day in particular, they will raise their delivery price by a couple of bucks. I think sometimes they feel like, you know, I can get away with it. The volume we're doing, you know, we're in demand, you know, I can do that. But this is what happens. Customers pay it. Customers don't bat an eye. But what makes me want to pull my last 3 hairs out is most florists will then go back and revert to their old delivery charge after the holiday. And I just think your customers just showed you. They'll happily pay an extra $2 for delivery. You know, why not keep it there? So in the bigger scheme of things, you know, the $75 arrangement that you're selling pre-tariff, maybe it's going to go to $83, $84. You're not going to lose business on the consumer end. You're going to hurt yourself if you're overthinking and fearful and you don't stick to the math. So
Danny was a little late to chime in, but when you offer great service, it becomes easy to increase your price.
Indeed. And, you know, that's kind of a universal standard. You know, when you look at luxury cars, like, you know, when you go to a Lexus dealership or a Mercedes dealership, it's an experience. So service is important. Getting back to your question about profitability, one of the things that I see, it's kind of a double whammy. I see a lot of shops doing is they're going to underprice designs because even though the math might dictate that this should go into the cooler at 125, there's that fear of rejection. Ooh, that's a lot of money. Just mark it at 99. Then where does the extra $25 go? And what happens all the time, and I think you understand this term, is there's a lot of stuffing that goes on. You know what that is? Yeah.
Just not measuring what you're putting into it, so your margin goes bye-bye.
Right. Or sometimes, albeit innocent, intentionally saying, "Oh, that needs a little something extra," and then throw in a few stems.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's some scary math. It really
not
really
keeping
is.
your eyes. So, what are some tips for that? Because that is, I think, like a conundrum for the creatives in the world, right? So
Right.
they want to make it perfect. They want to, like Danny says, give great service, but they're counting on the owner's buck to give great service. How do you protect that?
Well, quite honestly, that's part of the genesis of my app, because this is an epidemic in the industry, but it involves management. It involves, you as an owner manager randomly grabbing an arrangement off the tray and back that's going out for delivery, pull up the ticket in the point of sale system. If it says it's $100 arrangement, maybe your metrics are that there should be, $52 worth of flowers in there. If there's $70 worth of flowers, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. And that probably wasn't a one-off. That's probably indicative of what that particular designer is doing. So it's constant monitoring, constant discussing with the team, because otherwise you are, just giving away your profits.
Yep.
That's
and
never.
So, Danny, you're active today. Thank you. All the way from Colombia. Overstuffing kills shops more than tariffs will. What do you think?
Well, depending on the proportions. I mean, I've been at stores where a design is in the cooler marked at 125, and then when you count it out, and if you use the shop's metrics, it should be like 168. I mean, it's insane. It is insane what happens. The other part of that, kind of like the ugly cousin to that, is that too many shops don't monitor their waste, and they have no idea of how much is going in the garbage that could be used. There is a trick that I recommend to shop owners, and I say, at the end of the day, before you throw your garbage out, or get in early in the morning, it's going it's a little dirty. It's going to take you a minute, but go into your garbage and pull out the workable flowers, pull out the workable foliage, create a design. Don't say anything to your team, but then put it on the counter when they come in. Say, hey, what do you think? And inevitably, oh, that's beautiful, or oh, what's that for? And that's when you can say, guess what, kids? That is all what you deemed garbage and unusable, and threw out. And so you've got to create awareness there.
Wow, that's really interesting to do. That's really interesting, because it'll prove a point right off the bat. It'll prove a point right off the bat. Let me see. I think I have one other comment here. Esteban Santos, hello Tim. Hey Esteban, I saw you today. So he says, hello Tim. We connected on LinkedIn. Let me see what questions do we jump on real quick. I know you had something to show. Do you want to jump to that?
Yeah, why don't we do that, and we can bounce back to some questions, or see if anybody in the audience wants to ask anything. Cool. So what we're doing is, sure.
There you go.
We're this week in the run up to Mother's Day. We did an email blast, and we said to everybody on our email list, we want to give you some sales tips, some easy sales tips to help you with Mother's Day. So this was the first. Can you enlarge that at all?
Let me
put my glasses on.
No, that I cannot do.
No. Yeah, okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
So the concept here is listening to what people are asking for. And what I've seen in so many shops I've been visiting is people are asking about peonies. Everybody loves peonies. Funny enough, some flower shops have told me I'm not offering them, because by the time I do my markup, it's $18 or $20 a stem. I'm like, why not? You can't decide that. Let the consumer decide. Anyway, what I'm proposing here is just a very simple way for everybody to increase the base price of what they're offering for Mother's Day. So in theory, you might have a customer goes on your website or places an order for $75, but we can come in and say to them, if you want to make your mom's flowers extra special or smell fantastic, we have an option for you. We can add 3 peonies for blah or 5 peonies for blah, blah. And if it works with the numbers, I'd say give the customer a little bit of a break on that bigger upgrade, that 5 peony, but like working with a $15 just random price, 3 for 45, 5 for 70. The nice thing about this is you can add 3 or 5 insertions to any design that's already made. You can cut them, leave them high, cut them short. Furthermore, it's a really great upgrade because unlike a balloon or a teddy bear or a box of chocolates that might get left behind at the store, this is an integral part of the design. And I can draw on decades of experience with Mother's Day and know that there's a lot of guilt motivation at Mother's Day. Everybody, especially if they're not coming to see mom, they want it to look nice. They tend to be a little bit more liberal with their money. So this is pretty easy to do. But what I plotted out here for everybody is make sure you cover all the bases. So I advocate creating a code in your point of sale system. So on the receipt, the customer can see it. The designer will know that, this is a separate line item. Hence, I grab 3 or 5 peonies or roses. And then also it makes it very trackable. So you could propose to your staff, hey, whoever sells the most gets this, or as a team, if we sell X, we're going to go bowling or have a pizza party or, do something to motivate them. And it will work. It will work. Everybody will be surprised at how easily, even though funny enough, somebody's going to start in like, I want to spend $75. You blink and now they're just juicing their arrangement by $45 or even more.
And it seems just like a simple mention. It's not a hard sell. It's a simple mention.
Right. It's not a hard ask. All you're doing is you're putting it on their radar. But, our behind the scenes psychology is we're kind of tapping into that dynamic of everybody wants the best for their mom. Everybody is going to be a little bit more liberal with their money. Although it's not on the sheet, I'll kind of add a freebie to the freebie and I'll piggyback onto this. And I can't take credit for this. I was taught this a long time ago, but I think it's brilliant and it works effectively. So what I do, because I'll actually be working at a flower shop in New Jersey for Mother's Day. I didn't mention that I'm not just doing the training all the time. At the busy holidays, instead of staying home and watching Netflix like a normal person, I end up instead working with a flower shop, and I kind of bounce around. So I'm going to be working at a very busy store in New Jersey this holiday. Anyway, what I'll be doing is this. So I'm talking to the customer. He places or she places the Mother's Day order. And then unless the customer's in a big rush, and they hardly ever are, before we close the call, I'm just going to come in from the side and say, oh, by the way, are there any other special ladies you'd like to remember at Mother's Day? And the customer has that aha moment, and suddenly he remembers that, maybe the mother-in-law lives with them, or he thinks about, his daughter who just got a kitten. Now she has a fur baby. Smart. Or the elderly neighbor who is no relation, but, he wants to recognize her. And I will tell you from experience that about 1 out of 3 people jump on it. And beyond making another sale, which is good, they love the idea of the creativity. They enjoy the service. They appreciate being given that option. So that's easy enough to add to anybody's list of things to say.
And I think where Daniel Sanchez had said service, right? That is service, because how many, like, this is a question because I'm not a florist expert whatsoever, right? I'm more into distributor logistics, wholesalers, distributors, and this is my adventure in learning by connecting with you and gentlemen like Daniel, is how much of a learning curve is there to implement these things when you're installing into a flower shop?
Very little, and I think so many florists. I mean, I would say virtually none, because the language is precise. It's never you need to, you have to, you should.
Right.
It's always suggested. We're always offering essentially a curated experience. The other aspect of this that florists lose vision is that these customers are coming to them. These customers are calling them, coming in this door. It's not like Danny comes into the office in the morning, plops down the white pages on someone's desk and say, start calling around, see who needs flowers. We're not telemarketing. When you pick up the phone, that customer has called you with the intention of spending money. When that person walks through the front door, they're knowingly visiting a retail flower shop because they want that experience. They want to interact with somebody who is knowledgeable, somebody that's going to guide them in the right direction. So from my perspective, our job is to offer them the options.
And when someone calls, what percentage are not educated when it comes to purchasing flowers? What
About
percentage is it?
417%.
417. That's a big number, right?
Yeah,
was it 417? So when it comes to what, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, what percentage?
No, I mean, sir, I'm not being facetious. 9 out of 10 customers, if you tell them that you have scabiota, they just want to know how long you'll be contagious. But they have no idea.
What I guess my question is more to even knowing the process of purchasing the flowers, right? Oh, what do you want for your mom? I don't have a clue. What percentage do you get that education is the service at that point?
The majority, so the way that I deconstruct it is there's a very small subset. There are people who have done the research on your website. They know exactly what they want, but they opt to call. Great. You've got a customer who has a dollar amount in mind, and that's all that he or she cares about, like almost regardless, like I'm not going to spend beyond this, so you tell me what I can get. Yeah. And then you have a third subset of somebody who always sends the same thing. My mom loves pink roses. I always send her pink roses. But when you combine those three subsets, there's still a tiny, tiny minority, because the majority of people do this. They wake up in the morning, they get the alert on Facebook and think, oh gosh, it's Kelly's birthday. I totally forgot, but I'm driving by that flower shop, or I'll call that flower shop. So all they're thinking in the vaguest of terms is flowers. So they're open to the idea of the design, of the color scheme. And the smart florist is the one who sells what they've got, who is going to try to move out their existing product first. No different than a restaurant offering specials. We want to sell the arrangement that's already sitting in the cooler because you paid for the labor. That's not getting any younger. So that's essentially how it works.
So it's having almost like a coaching mindset when you get that call and walk that customer through the process is extremely profitable, correct?
Absolutely. And again, the irrefutable evidence is the website, because although the customer is navigating on their own, they're being shown those higher price points. They're being prompted to add that extra element, the box of chocolates, the teddy bear, the lavender scented candle, and they buy it. But the problem is we don't do that on the phone. And to that point, we actually, at the Profitable Florist, one of the programs that we have involves gathering once a month and listening to secret shopper calls that my team and I make. So it's kind of fun. We call all these different shops, but we scrub the data. So you don't know who we're talking to. We're kind of protecting them, but we're evaluating just, the core components of the call. And I kid you not that for every 50 calls that we make, only about 2 or 3 of them ever offer anything extra, like a balloon, a teddy bear, and we have to ask for it. And then they light up, oh yeah, we've got sea salt caramels, and but they don't offer it. So it's interesting to see how much money florists are leaving on the table.
I have to give a shout out today to Society of American Florists. I saw
Absolutely.
that one of the perks is that you will get a secret shopper call to your shop if you sign up as a new member. Thank you. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So we offer that as a paid service to our company, but I've been working with Kate Penn and all the good people at SAF for decades. I currently have a column running, and in that column, we talk about a call. So we deconstruct the call, what worked. It's called Flower Shop Sale or Fail. So we talk about the pros and the cons. There's a QR code so somebody can scan and actually listen to the MP3. But yes, anybody who joins SAF now, we will do a mystery shopper call. And the way that it works is we call the store and we come in under the radar. You'll never be the wiser. We have a set of dummy credit cards that we use. We do the research on Zillow, so it's a legitimate, address in your neighborhood. But we record it, and then we have a pretty detailed 15-point report card that we give back to the owner with the recording, with the report card, so they can review it and learn from it. And it's cringeworthy. It's shocking sometimes.
Wow.
what we hear. Yeah.
So when you secret shop Daniel's shop, please put my address, okay?
Gotcha.
We're in the same area. So I guess we could jump to one last question.
Sure.
And I guess it kind of wraps everything up because we talked about so many small mistakes, right? So what are the most frequent mistakes or the biggest mistake you see florists making, and how can they avoid it easily? Like, what's that one thing they're like, so easy?
Right. Without sounding self-serving, they don't invest in education. This is what happens. Florists feel, and they say it to me all the time, oh, our staff is very friendly. Customers love our staff. And I say, that's great. I can't teach somebody to be friendly, but just because they're friendly doesn't mean they're doing a good job. I talk to friendly people all the time who undersell, ask me how much you want to spend, don't offer the add-ons. But in the florist mind, friendly equates with doing a good job, but it really isn't. So what I would say, again, at the risk of sounding like a P.T. Barnum, is that investing in training, just making sure that your staff has the tools and the direction and the inspiration to give every customer who walks in or calls your store the ultimate experience. So regardless of what they spend, they hang up the phone and they walk out of there thinking, wow, that was great. That was so easy. That was so comfortable. I want to do that again.
Helpful. Yeah, so helpful. Gosh, I had a question, but it slipped my. Okay,
go ahead. We got time.
Question for you. No, it just slipped my mind. But so the person's calling in, the person's asking for. Okay, this is the question: what percentage of shops do? And I come from a sales background. What percentage do commission? Because it's usually very driven, right? It's intentional, self-benefit driven to sell more. So do flower shops do commission structures, and does that work?
Some of them do. What I would say, I think a better term is incentives, because commission, to my mind, involves a percentage or even a set fee, but they'll offer something like prizes. Whoever sells the most balloons this month will get X. Whoever increases their average sale from A to B will get Y. I would say, in a broad stroke, probably 1 out of every 6 flower shops that I work with has some kind of incentive plan, but it's typically pretty low key. I mean, even somebody who's hustling isn't going to clear more than a couple $100 a month. Granted, yeah, right, exactly. I'll push you out of the way to pick up a nickel on the sidewalk. So, I'm not saying that a couple $100.
Careful when things walking by.
But yes, they do, and it's good, because I say that money motivates, and this is what happens. People realize, oh my gosh, if I just change this and this, and if I'm working a little smarter, I'm going to walk away with an extra $200, $300, $400 at the end of the month. That's a car payment. That's that's whatever. That's some decent money.
Yeah. And what's the reason why they don't do commission? Let's say, like, because it's the margins and profit margins.
Yeah, it's the margin. It's the trackability. At many flower shops, there is, everybody does everything, but
Sales
sometimes
goals.
it's a little bit more segregated. So if somebody isn't frontline on sales, if they're a designer, they're not going to have as many opportunities to grab the call. As a designer, they're paid more, so it gets into a little bit of voodoo math, but that's
Got it.
that's what happens.
That's really interesting. Thanks for answering that. It's just and thank you for adding to my journey and learning more about flower shops and florists, because it's really difficult to learn from outside in. So diving in with you really gives me an opportunity to continue to learn. So thank you for that. Any last final words, Mr. Tim?
Yeah, I would say, regardless of the economic climate, I think the most important, or one of the most important things flower shops can do, and there's this real reluctance to do it, is to manage their staff. They're afraid to manage their staff because they feel like it's going to be impossible to replace them. We're working, so closely, but the funny thing is, when I'm preparing to visit a store or even do distance training, we have shops fill out a profile, and there are a couple of spots that are kind of open-ended, and they'll tell me, like, staff does this, or they make me crazy doing this. In other words, things that could be addressed with management. And getting back to our friends at SAF, if you're a member, you can go onto their website and even download an employee handbook, a template, where you can create, this is our policy. If you're going to be sick, you don't text me 10 minutes before you're due at work. You call me the day before. This is our policy on PTO. This is our policy on holidays. Don't tell me that you need the Friday before Mother's Day off, because you're going to get it off forever. So those are the kind of things that shops can do to just make themselves run more efficiently and impact their bottom line.
So appreciate that. So Jules says, hi, Tim.
Hey,
And
Jules.
then Daniel Sanchez tunes in and says, especially if you have home sales, it's best to offer incentives. So as you were saying, I think incentives and bonuses is the best route.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
To
Keeps people motivated.
So everybody, this was a small example of what our collaboration is going to look like. You will get in the next couple of weeks or maybe month, we'll tune you in to when Tim's available to do a takeover where you won't see me only till the end of the show, and Tim will do the full introduction and have fun with the show and make it what he wants to make the show up, because this show is by the floral community for the floral community. So Tim, thank you so much. Any final words?
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll save all my final words and inspiration for next time.
All right, take care,
right.
Tim. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We'll catch up soon.
Indeed. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a good day. Good luck with Mother's Day.
Let me fix that real quick. Give me a second. You'll see me not in double. You'll see me in single. This is the way you should see me. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. Again, pardon the voice, but that's my new show voice, I'm saying. But thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everybody, for also chiming in. I want to kind of just show a few things that we're working on. I do actually want to give, I wanted to mention what Tim was on, but SAF has taken a new approach to its membership, and they're offering some great incentives. So tune in, go to their website. If you're not a member yet, they're not paying me for this ad, I promise you. I just was really inspired by what they're doing in the sense of adding value to their membership. And I think it's extremely important to give them a round of applause for really continuing to improve what they do as an association and what they offer, because it's not only for florists, it is for wholesalers, distributors, growers, for everyone to connect. And it has the same heart or same vision, I believed, in what we at New Bloom Solutions and New Bloom Media has when it comes to connecting the whole industry, adding value to the whole industry. So really, really impressed by what they're doing. Then we have Andrea Carolina Lopez. I really enjoy this. Thank you for tuning in, Andrea Carolina Lopez. And want to talk about FlorExpo with Kim Bowen of Galleria Farms, Bradley Gaines, a director of Floral at United Supermarket, and Bob Callahan, the president of FlorExpo. We're having a show on May 1st this week. If you've never been to FlorExpo, if you've been to FlorExpo, If you're a vendor at FlorExpo and want to learn more about why you should attend and how you can get the best out of FlorExpo this year, tune in. It's a new ownership and a new energy. We've seen a lot of what they're doing with their boot camps. We're doing some cool events. We're even doing a panel, a Tariff panel on the last day in the main stage. So make sure if you're there, tune in. If you're not there, if you're not going or you're in the area and want a free ticket, reach out to me. There is a free ticket that we're giving out. I think the code is BloomOn. If anything, email connect at New Bloom Solutions. Find me on LinkedIn, wherever you want. Just let me know, and I'll give you that code. And that's for free entrance if you're a buyer, right? If you're a purchaser of flowers, you could attend this great show, which is in Fort Lauderdale, sunny Fort Lauderdale. So do tune in on May 1st, this Thursday at 1 p.m. And then we are also having Jennifer Diaz from Diaz Trade Law, and Santiago Gomez de la Torres of Airglades to unpack how U.S.-China tariffs affect the floral trade. So we're still talking about this. This is not going away. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but in reality, there's so many different angles to these tariffs that it's going to be really important for us to continue to stay up to date and tuned in. Even for our FlorExpo panel edition, we're a little nervous because the tune might be different, but considering how things are changing so rapidly, they go from yay to nay to nay to hey to maybe. It's really imperative that we keep our industry informed and connected to the right people so that we could all ask the right question, because with information comes power, and with information, in my belief, comes unity. Because if we all have the same information, we're all united in our actions. Some might do a little different, some might go another way, but that's why we have innovation. But when it comes down to it, it's really important. And on that note, feel free to share these episodes. Feel free to share these shows. And I would be remiss not to say thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for an amazing last 4 or 3 years. Thank you. We've hit 20,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. And that is not because of I'm here talking. It's because of our guests, and it's because you're supporting and watching. So please subscribe, please share, please comment, and do whatever you want. The show is for you, by you. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great one, and see you on Thursday. Take care.
The bloom, showing a fake connect them blue.